Hey everyone, and welcome back. In the last video, I showed you how you can create a stone text effect using layer styles in Photoshop. Continuing with our venture into layer styles, in this video we're going to be creating a simple yet effective gold text effect. Again, if you want an in-depth explanation on each and every style, there are great articles on psdtuts.com. Just like with the stone effect, I found that starting with a nice large font works well for these type of effects. You can definitely pull it off with a thinner font, but you may get better results starting a bit thicker. Let's hop into our layer styles and start with the gradient overlay. Once you've gone ahead and selected the gradient overlay, hop into the gradient editor to define the colors. The left color will be the lighter of the two, which will end up being the main gold color. I'm going to use FFE898 for the value. Now the color on the right will be a little bit darker, D18F0F. When you accept the new gradient, changing the style to reflected will apply the darker color to the top and the bottom of the text, leaving the middle nice and light. Now we come to the main effect, the bevel and emboss. When used correctly, bevels can really take your text to the next level. The style and technique will remain at inner bevel and smooth, but I'm going to crank up the depth to around 200 to strengthen the shading of the edges. Now to keep the bevel fairly close to the edges, I'm going to keep the size relatively low, somewhere around 7 pixels. Now down under shading, we're going to define the light source. Start by turning off global light so that it doesn't interfere with any other layer styles that you might have that use a light source. For the degrees value, I encourage you to experiment with the values as they can drastically change the result. 145 and 40 should work well for this effect, but notice when I increase or decrease the altitude how much the result changes. Definitely experiment to get the effect that you're looking for. The gloss contour is another option that you might want to experiment a bit with. I'm going to select the ring double contour to give the text a nice defined edge, but if you're looking for something softer, you may want to stick to the default setting. You're also going to want to turn on anti-aliased. Usually when there's an anti-aliased option available, it's good to turn it on. This will smooth out any rough edges that you may see on your layer. It can definitely make a difference in your final result. Next are the highlight and shadow modes. These can help control the colors of the shadows and the highlights. I'm going to keep the highlight mode as it is, but for the shadow mode, I'm going to change the blend mode to linear burn. This will give the shadows a darker orange look rather than a grayish tone. And to dampen the burn a touch, I'm going to decrease the opacity to around 60%. Good, that's starting to look pretty nice. Another style I'm going to pop on is a contour. This will help define the lip of the text just a little bit more. It's still looking a little bit flat. The contour I'm going to use will be the rounded steps contour, but of course try out the different contours that are available to see which one works best. And the range should be good at around 50%. And definitely you want to turn on anti-alias to smooth out those edges. Now next, depending on if you want your gold text smooth or a bit textured, you can also add a texture to your bevel, but you shouldn't go crazy with this, especially on metals. For the texture, I'm going to use the default satin texture with the scale kept at 100%, but to keep things nice and subtle, I'm going to set the depth at 1%. This will add a very slight texture to the text. Finally, the last style you might want to add, especially when working with gold, is an outer glow, just to add some shine. You can probably keep the blend mode at screen, but depending on the background that sits behind your text, you may need to try out the others. For the color, it should be similar to the main color of your text, in this case, a nice bright yellow, FFCD1F. And I think I'll decrease the opacity to around 50%, just so the shine isn't too bright. Good, now to finish it off, go ahead and increase the size until the glow is nice and spread out, somewhere around 30 pixels should work well. And then crank the range up to 100%. This will help really soften out those edges. And that should do it. It's a basic gold effect, but certainly a good starting point if you want to go crazy with your designs. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can save and organize your layer styles just in case you want to use the same effect on your other projects. We'll see you soon.